NATO and the EU should cooperate and coordinate better. By cooperating in areas such as heavy lift helicopters, maritime surveillance, and countering roadside bombs and other explosive devices, we can not only increase security for our troops on the ground, but also save taxpayers money. But transformation is not only a military topic. It has also a political dimension. To cope with the new security challenges, NATO's consultations must be broader and more intensive. NATO headquarters must be less of a bureaucracy and more of a streamlined operational headquarters. A headquarters where staff and resources are realigned to serve the alliance's new priorities, not outdated legacy activities and narrow national interests. We need better intelligence sharing and more situational awareness to deal with emerging crises. And we need, in particular, to overhaul our military command structure to make it more flexible and more deployable. This is an ambitious agenda, but there is no alternative to keeping NATO strong. History has taught us time and again that security cannot be had on the cheap. Ladies and gentlemen, history has also taught us something else. The more secure our neighbors are, the more secure we will be. And that is why our first line of defense must be to complete the consolidation of Europe as a continent that is whole, free, and at peace. What does this consolidation of Europe entail? For one, it means that NATO's open door policy must continue. It must continue because it provides a strong incentive for the aspirants to get their house in order. And it must continue because it is an expression of a key principle on which any European security order must be based: the free choice of alignments. But continuing NATO's open door policy is only part of the answer to Europe's consolidation. We also need a new relationship with Russia. Indeed, I firmly believe that a much improved relationship between NATO and Russia would be the best reassurance of all, to all our nations. That is why I have invested a lot of time and effort, ever since I took office, in building better relations with Russia. There's been progress in a number of areas, including our joint review of common threats and challenges, but there is a lot of work still left to do. We continue to have our differences, not least about NATO's open door policy. There are also profound concerns all across our alliance about Russia's policy vis-à-vis Georgia. And we think Russia sends the wrong kind of signal by conducting military exercises that rehearse the invasion of a smaller NATO member. Let me stress, NATO is not a threat to Russia, and NATO will never invade Russia. Nor do we consider Russia a threat to NATO. That is why Russia's new military doctrine does not reflect the real world. It contains a very outdated notion about the nature and role of NATO. But we must not let these differences hold the entire NATO-Russia relationship hostage. After all, NATO and Russia also have many common interests. In Afghanistan, in combating terrorism, and in preventing nuclear proliferation. We need a NATO-Russia relationship that allows us to pursue these common interests and which will not derail every time we disagree. I will continue to work for such a strong, trustful NATO-Russia relationship, and I'm confident that NATO's new strategic concept will underline the determination of all our nations to make it a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, today NATO is engaged in Afghanistan, in the Balkans, in the Mediterranean Sea, off the Horn of Africa. This broad spectrum of missions and operations is only natural. Today's risks and threats are increasingly global in nature, and our alliance must reflect this fact. But these new missions of NATO must not and will not lead us to neglect what constitutes the very core of this alliance: the collective will and the collective means to defend each other. An alliance that cannot provide for collective defense will lose the cohesion to contribute to collective security. By the same token, a Europe that relegates Russia to the role of a disgruntled outsider will remain incomplete. Such an incomplete Europe will waste too much time on revisiting the past, and in so doing, it may miss the future. As we prepare for that future, we need to reconcile collective defense with our new expeditionary missions. And we need to demonstrate NATO's long-standing commitment to a Europe that is whole, free, and at peace, and including Russia. I'm confident that our new strategic concept will reaffirm this fact. Thank you very much.